It's the most wonderful time of the year. I truly do enjoy making these videos, I think more than any other on my channel. I am going to be sharing my top 40 favorite songs of 2022, as I've done at the end of each year before. And I'm actually going to include 10 honorable mentions in the comment section below. So, of course, this list is very hard to narrow down, and then even more harder for me to organize and rank from least to most favorite. I actually almost decided this year not to do it in a ranking order, and I was just going to basically go through all of the songs in alphabetical order because I was like, ranking these is just like, it's a little bit like iffy. I go back on my old rankings and I'm like, really? That was my number one song of the year? Like it's like, it's so personal to your own taste and everyone's going to disagree. So like, I just have to get over that. But I kind of liked the sort of democratic way of just going through them all alphabetically. But then last minute, I was like, no, I got to go back and do it the old fashioned way. So we are going to be doing a good old fashioned ranking, which will give you what I would, I guess, call my favorite song of the year. But remember, it's very hard to place. The top 10 are really the top 10. Just some precursors to get out of the way. Yes, I'm more strict with these lists. The song has to have come out between January 1st, 2022, and, well, technically December 31st, but since that date hasn't happened yet, the date of filming this, December 19th, 2022. I don't understand why a lot of publications and people who review music choose to put their year-end lists out as early November, middle of November, December. Honestly, the best time to do it is end of December, early January. I figured there's not really much more music coming out around Christmas week. So I, really am tracking right up to the date that this is filmed. Any song that has come out. If it's a song I discovered that came out before January 1st, 2022, it does not make this list. Shout out to Bunny as a Rider by Caroline Polachek, because I was just about to include it on this list. And then I realized that song came out in 2021 in July. What the heck? That song is so old. I was like, I've been vibing to that song I'm sorry I slept on Caroline Polachek for so long. She would have been on this list with that song. I love that song so much. But it doesn't qualify for this list. It should have gone on my 2021 one. Oh well. There is one Caroline song that did come out this year that makes my honorable mention. So there you go. We've got shout out to Sunset. But with all of that being said, let's get into this list here with number 40. Que me pongan nena so que me derrito. Es más lejos que me mando me lo quito. Rosalia barely makes my top 40 list. And look, I know that Motomami is a critically acclaimed, fan-beloved album that came out this year. Highly snubbed at the Grammys in any of the big major nomination categories. And that is highly suspect. But I'll be honest with you, the album didn't entirely hit for me the way it might have for other people. My favorite song definitely has been Bizcochito, which I believe means baby cakes in Spanish. The MIA comparisons to the electropop beat of the hip-hop style of this song, very happily fitting. I believe MIA even gave a shout out to it because you can see that thread of inspiration. It's a childlike, I almost imagine jumping ropes to this song. It's very childlike, but very Rosalia. I've gotten into her music this year, and I definitely appreciate the artistry. It's just not entirely hitting on all cylinders for me, melodically, thematically for me all the time. But if I had to pick a song from Motomami, it would be this one. Try to forget the rest. Is that what you get undressed? Pray to God this won't be a mess. Maggie Rogers is a tough artist for me because I really, really appreciate the earnestness, the kind of older than old soul energy that she puts into her music. She's a real classic singer-songwriter, but she's honestly kind of overlooked by the Academy mostly. I was really surprised that Surrender was kind of completely overlooked by the Grammys for the most part. I think Want Want did actually get one nomination, if I'm not mistaken, for something. Best rock song, best alternative music video. I'm not sure. But people were saying, she's going to take over the industry by storm. That hasn't really happened. I will say that I do think her newest album is a mixed bag. Melodically, she's always teetering on a little bit cacophonous for me. I really, again, appreciate the spirit, not always the packaged outcome. Want Want was a big single. I appreciate the sort of pent-up frustration that you just feel when you're really exclaiming out how much you want something. And it really embodies that with the churling vocals and the hounding guitars. So I'm definitely a fan, even though it's definitely not a song I would necessarily say is in my top 10.
Qu'est-ce qu'on est beau sur les réseaux, chérie. T'as vu les gens comme ils sont jaloux de nous.
This was the year I finally started to peek into Stromae, the French rapper. The song Pas Vraiment, which means not really, really stuck out to me with the playful production and the flirty vocal exchange that he has. The song is an homage to a relationship that perhaps was just created for sake of popularity, two megastars coming together in the media and creating more of a media firestorm when there's not really anything actually sincerely underneath it. There's no actual love between the two individuals. It's purely for the newspapers. It's for the Instagram.
Balance, I'm staying strong. Stop playing with me before I turn you to a song. Stop playing with me before I turn you to a song. Hey, bitch, I'm attracted.
Now, you know that sonic appeal is always a big factor in why I like hip-hop songs. Kendrick Lamar is an artist who I must admit I have not been able to fully appreciate, being that I am not as into hip-hop and rap, particularly straight male hip-hop and rap. However, there's always one or two songs that stand out from every record he puts out. My favorite song, and this was a tough one because he does have some really strong songs on his latest album, would be Rich Spirit, which has spiritual undertones and meditations on social media, meditation, religious practice, thoughts and prayers in the media, mental health, and narcissism. The flow rhythmically is exquisite. I love the wooden sort of hollow percussive beat to the song, got an Eastern sentimentality, and the song is very centered in the sort of metronome-like pulse. Very call to an inward sort of facing dialogue that he is having within himself that is deeply profound lyrically.
Time, everybody agrees. I'll stare directly at the sun, but never in.
Taylor Swift's Midnights, as you know, was a bit of a letdown for me if you've watched my review of that album. But Antihero is obviously the front runner because it's the song that's not only begging to be the big single, I think it's one of the strongest melodies that she's delivering. It's definitely giving me 1989 era big 80s pop sound. And I think that the lyrical content mixed with the sort of overall message and production feels just polished enough to say, okay, this is a Taylor song worth adding to the playlist. It was a tough call between this one and Karma for which song should make onto this list. But ultimately, I chose Antihero. Karma gets an honorable mention just because Antihero is a little bit more lyrically interesting.
Gravity's holding me back. I want you to hold out the palm of your hand. Why don't we leave it?
I think it is absolutely crazy that this relatively mid-tempo, almost somber and downer kind of song made it so high in the charts, especially in the summer months. This song was spent 15 weeks in 2022 at #1 on the Billboard Hot 100. The fourth longest running #1 in the charts history. I mean, we're talking this song nearly beat Mariah Carey. Okay, this song had an undeniable staying power over the radio for an ungodly amount of time. But you know what? If this song is going to be a song that permeates radio forever, I'm okay with it because from the moment I heard it and saw the video, I knew I was on board with what Harry was doing. Harry dourly sings about loss and loneliness over a thumping, fast-tempo drum line, which honestly would be at odds with the heaviness of the subject material, but it works in such a topsy-turvy pairing, something you would see if you looked at Harry's House album cover. Everything is just a little bit a mix of light and dark, happy and sad, lonely and full of life, despondent and yet full of life and color. And it's just quirky enough to give a nod to pop done right from me. Shinigami Eyes is the second single, I guess, from Grimes' upcoming album, Book 1, which we still do not have any word on. Fingers crossed for 2023. I'm going to be honest, Shinigami Eyes is highly underrated by Grimes even herself. She sort of put it out and then forgot about it. The cybertech, visually stunning music video that was so over the top in only a way Grimes can pull off, maxed with the high-octane, bass-driven, electrifying affair we get in the production that just goes a mile a minute makes this song absolutely orgasmic. I'm assuming Shinigami eyes are some sort of filter that makes your eyes really red in like an anime type of aesthetic that you can find on Snapchat or Instagram. I wouldn't know, but I'm assuming that's where she's going. Playing with the whole aesthetic of turning into a cyberpunk fairy core robot warrior. Something that I'm sure she's going to play a lot more with in future songs for this upcoming project. I'm very excited to see what Grimes does, even if she has been kind of controversial with her associations with Elon over time. Give this one a listen if you haven't. It's definitely an earworm. It's really far too short.
Unpacking, pace around the kitchen for scraps of inspiration, crying like Cassandra.
I had a hard time picking songs from Dance Fever, Florence and the Machine's album that came out this year, that I felt deserved to be on this list. Especially like the third pick, because I had two songs that I felt strongly about, and then another which I was tying with another song. But I ultimately chose Cassandra, and if you've watched my review, you'll know that I highly favor the acoustic version. However, I ultimately decided to go with the studio cut. The acoustic version is more harp-laden and obviously a little bit more whimsical, but I do appreciate the instrumentation, the backing that comes with the album cut. And lyrically, this is one of Florence's best on the new record. Even if the melody is a little bit, for me, underwhelming. I still have to give this song its props for how ambient and centered in its storytelling it feels from the very first note, and from the elegiac sort of storytelling approach that she adopts, as she personifies herself as the goddess Cassandra of Greek mythology, doomed to tell prophecies that would never be believed. As Florence extrapolates that into her own life.
What I see is not me. 1, 2, grapefruit. How am I back here again? 3, 4, lose more.
Deaville, or Deaville, I've been pronouncing her name wrong for a very long time, as most of us probably have, dropped an impeccable electropop dance record this year in Dirt Femme. And ultimately, I went with Grapefruit as my highlight pick. This song is not only so classically Tuve in how it's electrifying and pulsating, rhythmically pulsating and satisfyingly bombastic it is, but it also touches on a subject matter we haven't really heard her sing so candidly about, which is that of an eating disorder. Peeling back the layers of what it's been like psychologically for her to deal with this over time, when people always assume she's been this thin, skinny, beautiful girl.
So I ask myself, am I the only one looking for substance?
Demi Lovato's new album, Holy Bleep, had definitely came and went this year, and this was a last-minute addition to my list after I spent a lot of time thinking about what other song deserved potentially to take a spot here. I ultimately went with Substance as my favorite song from the record, as I feel that the song really does have a lot of substance to it, both lyrically and also in the killer 2008-esque Demi guitar pop punk riff it explodes upon. In the day and age of social media influencers and the glorification of celebrity status and materialism, Demi is crying out for something real, and she would know better than any that's what substances are harmful to intake versus what are good for the soul. And I really appreciate that she has this wizened, matured, angsty, fervent energy coming to this conversation that really comes across in the lyrical content and the way she expresses her brilliant vocal deliveries all over this track. Khalila's Washed Away serves as the lead single from her upcoming album Raven, something I'm very excited to listen to. I must admit, the interlude quality of this song might make it something you sleep on initially, but this song is more of an intro opening up into this new world. It's like a balm of mist falling into some caressing, warm, milky bath. I don't know how else to explain it. This song has a very hot tub energy, but it is the most soothing and blissed out melodic delivery and ethereal production that you could conjure up. And for that, it's always going to be spellbinding to me, and it was a noteworthy release for this year. For an artist who is known to be more on her, to flex her more electronic up-tempo muscles, I appreciate this blissed out intro number.
l'oreille de Yazak.
Of course, I had to put Stefania by Kalush Orchestra in here. The rightful winners of Eurovision 2022. I don't want to hear it. It is unfortunate that they cannot host in Ukraine, the Ukrainian group that won. But the UK will be a wonderful host country. Yes, I loved Spaceman, but I'm sorry, I will always be a Stefania fan. This song is everything I love about ethnic, hip-hop, folk, pop music. And it's not normally kind of music I would listen to, but there's something about the polish and the musicality, the choreography, the earnestness of the lyrics, of course, when you dive into it, the meaning, it really just, it's a solid package that showcases flavor and life and vibrancy that I cannot turn away from. The flute hook will forever be one of my favorite uses of a flute in a pop breakdance moment.
Yeah, I'd wear your heart like a symbol. I couldn't say.
Right at the top of the year, The Weeknd released his album Dawn FM. The standout song for me, Less Than Zero, I think showcased everything about what I love about The Weeknd when he does pop right. A luscious, mellifluous melody that soars with highs and lows, and hard on your sleeve lyrics about falling in love. What's more to like? The Weeknd can never do wrong when he pairs his wonderfully rich vocals with that 80s synth backing. The closing track off of Beyoncé's Renaissance, and I know this is huge for me because I never reviewed this album on my channel, and I still regret that to this day. It just ultimately didn't happen. I don't know what to say. I was going to film it. I believe I even started filming it, and I just decided, you know what, there's going to be so many people filming this review, so many gay, queer men, particularly queer men of color, Black men, who are going to have things that are perhaps a little bit more interesting to say about a body of work that is specifically for that community. I am queer, but I am not Black and queer. And I felt like, you know what my thoughts are not worth really showcasing compared to what others might say. But I do want to make it very clear that this has been one of my most enjoyable listens of the year. And Summer Renaissance, which interpolates the iconic Donna Summer I Feel Love melody line and bass synth, skyrockets this album into the stratosphere. It is Beyonce in her campiest and most wondrously diva-esque disco self. And I think this album was just what the doctor ordered, especially when we're going through a time, you know, when politically and geopolitically and in healthcare and everything, things are so unsteady and unsure. Beyonce knew how to bring us to the dance floor this year to celebrate euphorically.
Long vacation, no makeup, just Jay-Z. You were balls deep, now we beefing. At me butt naked at the MGM.
SZA. Finally, I stopped sleeping on her. I was not as big a fan of Control, and that's going to be always a hugely controversial opinion. But I think that's because Control versus compared to her most recent album, SOS, which only came out a couple weeks ago, which comes 5 years after it, has a lot more diversity in genre than the first album, her first record. The R&B is toned down just a smidge to introduce elements of country, alternative, pop punk. There's lots of more focus on her wondrous vocals, the soaring melody on Nobody Gets Me, which is more of a sort of folk country ballad than anything else, even though we do get that signature R&B flair in the delivery and the verses, really emphasizes the pain and suffering that she is experiencing in a state of relationship where it's unsure whether it's going to survive. And the fear of losing the person is driving her to this place we all can relate to.
Are you here in my head? You know what I want. Say you've been
Røykskap, the Norwegian electronic group that I, again, have been sleeping on, this has been a theme for this year, released not one, not two, but 3 albums this year. Profound Mysteries 1, 2, and 3. But I think out of all 3 of those releases, the highlight was Profound Mysteries 1, with particularly their song Breathe featuring Astrid S. This song is dark and light mixed together in a dreamwave synth concoction that is pure perfection to the ears. The more I've gotten to discover Røykskap and their brilliant production style, the more I've appreciated the sort of impact that they've had on pop music for decades now in similar lanes of sound. There's something back to the basics about these house synth pop electronic numbers that really take it back to what's great about this genre to begin with. And they know how to craft a vibe and an energy with very little, especially in the lyrical department, to kind of attach to it.
Wondering if anyone knows me. Really see.
Weyes Blood gives us her album In the Darkness, Hearts Aglow, and the big song, the flagship song, It's Not Just Me, It's Everybody. She can make a piano ballad that has a distinctly observational, introspective feel, so elegant and uplifting in its 6-minute entirety. The melody bends and weaves through the emotions as she processes the nature of human suffering, that it feels so isolating when you're in your own pain, but remembering that everyone is affected by it in the long run.
I can be all the things you like a paradigm. I could be older with my eyes on you. You can be.
I chose to highlight this song by The Head and the Heart, the song Paradigm, because this song has just an infectious charm and lightness to it that lifts me up when I'm feeling down. The chorus hook hits you, sinks in from this Seattle, Washington vocalist, Jonathan Russell, on this indie rock pop confection.
Stare at the ceiling, I can feel you trying doors I'd opened up before.
This year I discovered The Knocks, although Dragonette's vocals, the featured artist, are what really brought me in. But the production on their song Slow Song, which is a back to basics bubblegum pop treat of a listen, swept me away with the hooks, the danceability of the bass, of the production, and the melody, how it fits. The music video where drag queen superstar Aquaria, who is from my hometown, by the way, interpolates the atmosphere and vibe of the song on a late night dance through the city sidewalks, sets the mood for what I like to think of as a more introspective club anthem, something that is really fun to dance at a party, but is so emotionally grounded inside. And so you could have the dance floor completely to yourself, and you will be just as satisfied. Even if there's no one else on the dance floor, it almost works even better. This is a moment for introspective clubbing.
Please do not be alarmed, remain calm. Do not attempt to leave the dance floor. The DJ booth is conducting.
Please do not be alarmed, but we have a hit on our hands. Alien Superstar is a tour de force on Beyonce's Renaissance, a no-brainer to include on this list. One of the most experimental art house disco diva songs she could ever create, one entirely for the gays and for the feminine presenting individual of this world, for the queer, that is so unapologetic in all of its referencing, fabulousness, its blackness, danceability. The song is chef's kiss, literally. And kind of is like a quintessential anthem for the clubs, for gay clubs, from now for forever.
Knows why for years I roam, freeze these.
I still have not seen the movie Where the Crawdads Sing, but Carolina, the song Taylor Swift wrote for the film, which definitely does sound like an outtake from her Folklore Evermore era, fits so beautifully the hazy summer evening of a Carolina swamp. I can just see the pines and the fireflies and the humid air. I can just feel it when I listen to her coolly serenade over the moody ambient guitar, the essence of Carolina as if it was a person, the rivers, the forests, all of the things it knows when you run to them in the nature of the night, clandestinely pouring your heart out in either wonder or sadness. It's there to comfort you when no one else can. And this song definitely represents all of those emotions so wonderfully. And I think it could easily it will definitely get nominated, I think, for Best Original Song at the Oscars. And I wouldn't mind it winning, though I think it's got another big, huge competition coming up. That'll make that difficult.
Your car with you, sleeping in the seat next to me like a baby.
I had to be really careful with songs from The Gods We Can Touch, which was Aurora's third studio album. Well, I guess technically her fourth, if you count Infections of a Different Kind, and A Different Kind of Human as two separate records that don't form one. Some of these songs that were for the record came out in 2021, but Everything Matters came out like the first Friday of 2022, so it counts. And it features the French artist Palm, and perhaps the most whimsical and childlike melody I could ever imagine for Aurora. It fits her oeuvre of sound and work so wonderfully as she waltzes through the melody line so delicately and so deftly, and Palm complements it so wonderfully with her hushed outro French vocals. The rises and the falls, the octave jumps, everything about this song is delicious sonically and so poignant emotionally, describing being enraptured by romance and what being in love means. Even if it's more than just a romantic partner, it's more of a spiritual connection to the universe.
Feels like it's close enough to touch.
Of Monsters and Men released an EP this year called Two, and it's supposed to be kind of a teaser for what's to come, as they say they're going to be releasing a new body of work in 2023. So I'm going to be very excited for that. But Lonely Weather is very much hearkening to their more moody electronic rock, indie rock sound that I became so enamored by on Beneath the Skin, their second record. By the time this song crashes into a piano and guitar caterwauling cacophony of emotion, you're so sold on the emotional trip that the song is taking you on. They have a way of just capturing melancholy in rock in a way I haven't heard from any other band.
On my hand, everything will be okay. I heard from the heavens that clouds.
So Carolina's biggest competition is going to be, and pretty much any original song that wants to win at the Oscars this year is going to be with Lady Gaga, Hold My Hand, the song from Top Gun Maverick. I have not seen that film either, but obviously the music video was definitely trying to get you to watch it. It was screaming Tom Cruise, but at the end of the day, we're here for Gaga. We're here for an iconic sort of 90s, early 2000s power belter movie closer. And I think that Hold My Hand is one that is going to age well with time. I think that it's somewhat safe for her, especially lyrically, but that's what we were always going to be getting with a song such as this. And it definitely delivers on the high emotion, grand slamming vocals and raw impact that it should have in 3 minutes that captures the emotions that you go through, much like a roller coaster ride of a movie that takes you through highs and lows. You need something that grounds that. I Am I, Who Am I's record, Be Here Soon, has a standout in 1,000 years. A plaintive, moody ballad reflecting on the time that Yona Lee, the singer on the song, and major creative director for most, if not all, of I Am I, Who Am I's projects, has the reflection of what it has been to be a performer, an artist, looking back at a decade plus of work and the relationship she's had to her audience, and the fact that she is about to be a mother in the time that this video was filmed. There is just such a candidness. There's such an uncomfortable closeness with the melody and the deftness in which it blends with the percussion at the end. The haunting space it creates with Claes Bjorklund's accompaniment on the instrumental, really encapsulating the feeling of making space for something to come, a hollowed out space of introspective energy that Yona is channeling all of her hope and all of her queries and questions about what's to come in her life into in the form of this baby, and reflecting on what it has been like to witness time and its passing. And if only she could have 1,000 years or more to further explore all that she has just begun to tap into in her own personal journey and growth. Harry's House was a huge hit this year, not just because of As It Was. But I'll be honest, a lot of the record for me just really wasn't hitting. But Daydreaming was a song I could not get out of my head all summer long. Baya, ba, 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 ba. Like, it doesn't get more pop than that. I honestly 100% only come to this song for the melody, don't care at all about the lyrics, but that's how it is with Harry a lot of the time. He knows how to serve something summery, euphoric, easy breezy. His raspy vocals have never sounded better, in my opinion.
Hey there, little girl, don't you wanna see the world? Don't be scared.
This was again another year where Rina Sawayama finally, I think, decided to finally released a body of work that I truly gobbled up. Her first album just really wasn't hitting for me, but Hold the Girl had hit after hit. And I really had a hard time narrowing down which song sides this big glaring tens across the board moment for me in Catch Me in the Air. There is definitely, and I've heard this said, a Disney Channel original movie bubblegum pop punk element to the lightheartedness of this song and perhaps the innocence of it. I mean, she is singing about being a little girl and the journey that she's taken to becoming the star and as an adult, and how hard it's been, and how euphoric it's been to reflect upon. And I do feel that. I mean, the way it just blossoms into pop rock perfection, it's very much Disney Channel rock done right. I'm definitely 100% here for it.
I drank every sky that I could, made myself mythical, tried to be real.
Daffodil, Florence's probably most experimental and archetypal songs on Dance Fever. Daffodil serves something that I wish we'd gotten more of on songs like Choreomania, the song that is supposedly the theme of the whole record. She has become channeling something pagan, she's channeling something storybook, and it's a silly reference, but it is driven home so aggressively that you really believe it. When she sees all of life and space and time in the face of a daffodil, you know, it's a very David Bowie sentiment, and it really takes that sort of psychedelia to a whole new level in a witchy way that only Florence can deliver, where Mother Earth itself seems to be rising up and opining about the heavens and the sky above, raining down on it. I'm here for the crashing guitars. I'm here for the abrasive, in-your-face attitude that is served, it melded with the storybook whimsy that is tied together in the lyrical content.
Now, baby, please let me wash my sins deep in you.
The urban, pulsating, rhythmic flow of Oxygen from Emily Sandé's Triumphant, let's say, for instance, was a song filled with such sonic magnetism for me, not only in the melody and the hook, but in the metered, measured allurement of her vocals to seductively bring you into her love nest for her partner. I love how the beat sort of mimics the sound of a heart, the rhythm and vastness of the heartbeat, the low kind of bass pulse of the connection, the tissue, in its steady ebb and flow of blood, connecting two lovers and drawing the other in so viscerally.
Keeper of sure hope is there at
Björk delivers a painful eulogy to her late mother on Ancestress. And if you've watched my track review, you know how the deeply revelatory lyricism mixed with the uncanny percussion and marching folk instrumentation gives this a sacred and hallowed feel of mourning and lamentation that only Björk can deliver in such a Viking Nordic fashion for 6 minutes on end, having you contemplate, even as you listen to such a deeply personal story of her relationship, of her mother's death, what the life stages are for all of us, and how we all are flesh and blood of our ancestors, and we carry that legacy on as we pass the torch. UK singer Birdie only put out one song this year, but it stuck to me like glue, like almost all Birdie's songs will, off of the Netflix film Persuasion, interpretation of the Jane Austen novel. The credits track, Quietly Yours, molds a featherweight, shimmering piano line that revels in its own ecstatic declaration of love for another individual in a way Birdie can only do when she weaves her voice over cascading delicate chords of the piano.
Paving my way through dusty beaches.
The other standout track from Be Here Soon of I Am I, Who Am I, Zevin, is a tribute to OCD and to habit ritual making, and interpolates her singing counting from 1 to 7, assuming that 7 is a powerful number, which it is for me as well, and how all-encompassing this mindset can be on the psyche. And before it transitions from its alternative folk rooting into a electro synth dance number that, if you see in my album review, is the most left field and ear-pleasing transitions I've ever heard in a song. That is wholly unexpected but wholly welcoming, and transcends this song beyond just simply pleasant background music to something wholly engaging and avant-garde. The title track from Fasora by Björk is the perfect blend of the quirky clarinet, sort of classically inspired melody lines that she really toys with on that record, and the bass-driven industrial electro techno that she has Kasamin, who is this gabber beat producer who makes these such titanium, full throttle, but yet earthy techno music explosions in a way that only in a maniacal way that only Björk can make so cohesive and encompassing. I find the journey that this song takes you on, as she describes the roots of plants and mycelium, the mushroom kingdom, kind of like a tree going into the earth and pushing ever further downward, as a metaphor for us as people during the pandemic, taking root in our homes or wherever it was that we happened to quarantine or lock down. And then at once we, like a jackhammer, we hit the earth where we've stayed in one place long enough to really blossom, to create something truly visceral and empowering from that space. From instead of being this seed wayward on the wind, we now are grounded and stronger because of it. The song is relentless, and it reminds me of Pluto from Homogenic in its unbridled, cacophonic, distorted vocal delivery, and packs a punch for the second to last song on the record. I don't include soundtracks as often on these year-end lists. This was one of the first years where I really looked at soundtrack and said, I really should be giving soundtrack a little bit more of a fair shake here. But it's also obvious, being that I'm such a Lord of the Rings fan, that I would be very much paying attention to anything Tolkien related musically that was coming out. And despite all of, and if you've seen my videos I've made on the Rings of Power, the Amazon TV series that premiered this year, the highly controversial one that is, that there's a lot that can be said, mostly negatively, about the show. But one thing that I think we all can agree on is a rather strong selling point for it is the music. Bear McCreary really conducted his heart out on the score. And one of the highlight tracks for me is the theme for the mythical island kingdom of men of Numenor, which has a Mediterranean-inspired, sort of like Greek, instrumentally led, triumphant, soaring brass and symphony line that I think mirrors the sort of majesty and arcane, archetypal, wonder of this ancient city. So wonderfully, so storybooked, so page to picture in my mind. And the theme the motif is so fitting for this hardy and yet wizened and brave culture of peoples who, are more exotic than the average person from Middle Earth, the average human. And it's rooted in that culturally so wonderfully. There's just so many layers and textures. And Bear McCreary really does take up the torch of Howard Shore, I think, in creating these cultural motifs for all of these different races and regions of Middle Earth that are so rich and mystifying. Instead of using the iconic lead single Break My Soul from Renaissance in this list, I decided to go with the Queen's remix, which was a collaboration with Madonna and a sampling of her 1990 hit Vogue. I think the two songs fit like a glove in terms of, the legacy of house music, that Vogue is obviously in the same conversation as Break My Soul. And the songs just complement one another wonderfully. I'm a huge Vogue fan as it becomes. Vogue is one of my favorite songs of Madonna. So Beyonce paying homage and then at the same time creating her own spoken word tribute to Black female artists, like the way that Madonna did to Hollywood stars of the past in her 1990 version, is just the perfect legacy project for Beyonce. It's fitting that only an artist like B could, the queen herself could team up another, reigning queen of pop culture and serve such elegant, confident, boisterous, unapologetic dance pop like they both do. And Break My Soul on its own is a strong song, though a bit derivative and I think not quite as, and I think a little bit overrated by some publications. There are a lot of stronger songs on Renaissance, so I do understand why it was the lead single. But this is ultimately why I chose, because of the interpolation between the two. When you mash Vogue and this song together, you get the best of both worlds, and it is just truly a hit for the ages. It was undeniable that My Love, the one sort of pop polished song on Dance Fever, would make my list at number 4 here. My Love is just a quintessential Florence whirlwind of a song, and everything about it, if you watch my review, it's memorable, it's slick, well produced, vocally rich and dynamic, elegant, fitting of the catalog of Florence for her belting songs. And definitely a standout moment for me musically this year.
For the elven kings under the sky, 7-4.
I was shook when Bear McCreary recruited Fiona Apple to sing the end credits song on the final episode of episode 8, Rings of Power. Where the Shadows Lie is a recitation of the One Ring poem, speaking of the creation of the Rings of Power that Tolkien wrote in The Lord of the Rings. And it is so hauntingly interpreted melodically by Fiona in her broken, despondent vocal. And I think they couldn't have picked a better artist for it. And yes, it is a little bit melodically similar to Gollum's song from Two Towers, but I actually like that sonic throwback. It's evocative of that sort of ominous foreboding that we feel at the end of Two Towers that mirrors the sort of imagery and feeling of the end of episode 8 of season 1 of Rings of Power. Virgo's Groove is the song of Renaissance, and I think we can all agree. Now, I know you might be wondering, are there any other Renaissance songs on this list? And if so, if not, where is Cuff It? Look, we can all agree Virgo's Groove is Beyonce's, I think, strongest delivery here vocally on this record. But Cuff It has the vocals, it has the chops. But it, for me, is not so much my style. There's a little bit more of danceability that fits my synth pop ear in Virgo's Groove. than there is in Cuff It, which I think is a little bit more rooted in R&B. Don't get me wrong, I appreciate Cuff It for what it is. It's just not actually as strong a song for me as Summer Renaissance or Break My Soul or Alien Superstar or Virgo's Groove. So I know it's a little bit like, where is Cuff It? I'm sorry. Everyone says it's the best song on Renaissance. I think Virgo's Groove blows it out of the water. This song, you don't even feel its 6-minute runtime. And even if you do, you don't mind the indulging of how she just plays with the harmonies of herself and the vocals and really lays like that sugary sweet melody on super thick. And you just get enwrapped in the production and everything. It's just so, so decadent. Such a rich song. It's so sugary sweet. And it's just, again, pop excellence.
And no matter who I touch, I'm afraid there isn't much.
The 80s synth pop standout for me on Let's Say, for instance, There Isn't Much. I rave about this song in my album review by Scottish singer Emily Sandé. The earnestness of the lyrics, the classic soaring melody line, the production, everything hits right in the heart. Everything comes right to the center and really grounds your attention. And I think that Emily is so in her lane when she's kind of embodying this type of music, this soulful kind of take on 80s, 90s synth pop music. It's just so what I want from her. And everything about this song and the emotional quality to it is just everything it's the song I was probably listening to the most this entire year, like on replay. So at number 1, I'm a little predictable. I know I'm always going to put my favorite artists at number 1. But the closing track off of Fosora, Her Mother's House, which is a collaboration between Björk and her daughter Isadora, who is a burgeoning musician herself, very talented singer in her own right. And the two pair so wonderfully together as Björk sings about the heart and the rooms and chambers of it as a metaphor for a child and each of her children having space there. You can't pick a favorite, but they all are distinct and part of this organism of love. And the way she poetically waxes about child rearing and emotional connection between a mother and a daughter, the fullness of the voice and the power and the magic of it, the generosity of the voice, and the oboe is just so wonderfully woven into it melodically. I just melt away at the oral kind of symphonic mastery that's on display here. It closes out the album on a real high note, and it closes out 2022 on one as well. I'd say that, it definitely has the most emotional impact for me out of all of the songs on this list, even though that's a tall order. The top 10, 15 songs I'd all say are masterpieces. It's so hard to rank them, but that's where I'm at. I hope that you agree with a lot of these placements. I'm sorry if a song is missing, but I will write down 10 honorable mentions in the comments, and of course, there's so many more songs that could have made it. I will have a playlist that I will link in the description on Apple Music that will have all of these songs, plus the 10 songs that I think are honorable mentions, ranked in the order I talk about them, with the honorable mentions at the top. So you'll be able to listen to them in the order as I go through. If you want to check out any of these songs, if you haven't heard them before. And I thank you all so much for watching. Let me know in the comments what your favorite songs of the year were. And I'd be interested to see and learn, because I do love these videos because we all discover new music. Because I always have an ear for, what other people are saying is good. And it's so hard to talk about sometimes because I just have nothing else to say, but I liked this song, really liked it. I'm trying, but I felt like I wanted this video to be a little shorter, but I'm not really good at doing that. So I tried to go a little quickly through it, but hopefully I did them all justice. I hope you all have a wonderful, happy holiday and New Year. And I hope you enjoyed this video, and please subscribe if you did, and subscribe if you're new, and give this a like if you enjoyed. I will see you all in the new year. Peace, love, and light. Bye.